The battle begins with fast, heavy slashes. Explosive energy shakes the ruined city as Vikir fights the giant plant monster. The four-eyed flower fairy guide watches in total shock. From their hiding spot, the surviving students stare at the fight in disbelief. Vikir moves incredibly fast, easily dodging the massive vines thrown at him. The students are confused, struggling to understand the high level of combat. The system identifies the monster as the S-rank Bloodwater Plantain Lily. It is a deep abyss nightmare that floats on blood lakes. It is so dangerous that one seed almost drove humanity to extinction. Staying completely calm, Vikir dodges a deadly vine just inches from his face, tracking every move. The hidden students can't believe he survives, wondering how he dodges every single strike. Earlier in the church, Vikir prepared a large bloody sack, knowing its contents would be enough for this hunt. Dakaravia notices Vikir's ruthless and calculated approach suits him well. With his preparations done, Vikir inspects the items he took from the students. Vikir sees that most of the students' boxes are deadly mimics, and the safe ones only give minor stat candies. The system identifies a small bone hoe and an oil paper pouch as D-rank artifact. At first, he thought they were useless. However, as he checks the cheap loot, he looks surprised. He realizes that among the items is something incredibly rare he never expected to find. In his hand is a glowing silver orb. Vikir remembers from past heroes that this is a very rare hidden item. The system calls it a silver candy, which permanently increases the ultra-rare reflex stat by 1 point. Holding the candy, a confident smile appears on Vikir's face. He wonders if he is using all his luck too early, but he is now ready to fight the S-rank monster outside. Grenouille watches nervously from the rubble, whispering Vikir's name. In the clearing, Vikir flips backward, perfectly dodging a thick group of vines like an acrobat. The giant plant attacks endlessly, trying to crush him with sweeping tentacles. Vikir quickly backs away, sliding across the floor to dodge a deadly bite from its huge mouth. A fierce smile appears on Vikir's face. Feeling the change, he finally understands why past heroes wanted the rare reflex stats so badly. Even 1 point of reflex completely changes his fighting skills. As he pushes his senses to the limit to dodge the attacks, he feels a huge difference in his body's reactions. The reflex stat lets his body react without thinking. His body now makes fast, automatic decisions, knowing exactly when to step, stop, or dodge before he even notices the danger. Feeling this automatic dodging, Vikir grins. Having this natural combat instinct feels just like cheating in a fight. From the ruined walls, the students watch in awe. They whisper in shock, unable to grasp how Vikir dodges everything. It looks like he can predict the monster's attacks before it moves. Despite his speed, a student tells Arthur that dodging only makes the beast angrier. As the monster snaps its jaws, they wonder how Vikir plans to kill the tough S-rank threat. Seeing a chance, Vikir jumps high above the creature. Coming down, he unleashes powerful slashes with his red aura blade, aiming at the monster's thick body. But the attack just sparks on its tough skin, leaving it unharmed. Realizing his strikes lack piercing power, Vikir's face turns serious. The monster attacks back, forcing Vikir to retreat and slide across the broken stone to dodge. The system shows his level and new titles. Checking his stats, Vikir realizes that cutting the monster's tough skin is impossible right now. Pendant Decravia speaks up, pointing out a key detail. The artifact notes this beast is very different from the monsters Vikir fought in his past life. The pendant explains that the plant is not a purebred from hell, but a weaker, mixed version. The pure species grows by drinking from blood lakes in the underworld. Because of that, purebreds are much larger and deadlier than this creature. Being trapped in this dry place leaves the beast starving and very thirsty. Decravia warns Vikir not to drop his guard. Even a starving S-rank monster is still deadly. He realizes the demon's real plan. They didn't put an S-rank monster here to be hunted. It is an impossible hurdle meant to cause despair. Decravia suggests a new plan. Since he cannot break the armor, he needs to hit its one fatal weakness. That weakness is the soft flesh inside its mouth, but it only shows this spot when opening its jaws to eat. Decravia asks if Vikir is brave enough to use that small opening. A fearless smile crosses Vikir's face. He replies confidently that using this exact moment is why he gathered supplies in the church earlier. The fairy guide grows angry at Vikir's calm attitude, confused by his smile. It demands to know why a human acts so arrogantly against an S-rank monster. Losing its temper, the fairy orders the monster to eat Vikir completely. The giant beast instantly shoots its tentacles at him. As the tentacles fall toward him, Vikir just looks up with a calm smile, ready to execute his plan. the plant smashes its tentacles into the ground, destroying the stone floor and sending dust and rocks flying. Floating among the falling rocks, Vikir stays calm. He uses his impenetrable sacred ring. The system confirms its storage pocket mode is active. Reaching into the storage, Vikir pulls out the bloody sack he prepared earlier. With a strong swing, he throws it high into the air right at the monster. The fairy guide stares in confusion. Below, the students watch in shock. Unable to understand why Vikir throws a bloody bag at an S-rank beast. Blinded by hunger and the smell of blood, the monster opens its huge mouth wide to swallow the sack and the bloody limbs inside. Seeing the falling body parts, the students finally realize that the tearing sounds from the church yesterday were Vikir cutting up hellhounds for bait. While the students shake at Vikir's ruthless planning, he stays focused. With glowing red eyes amid the debris, he sees that his real target is finally visible. Deep inside the monster's throat, past its teeth and vines, a giant glowing purple eye is exposed. It is the creature's core and fatal weak point. Realizing the trap, the fairy shrieks in panic. It orders the monster to close its mouth and hide its eye. But the fairy soon realizes it is already too late. Jumping quickly across the moving vines, Vikir launches himself straight at the monster's mouth. Gathering his red energy, he prepares the first Baskerville sword style to strike the weak spot. With the bright red flash, Vikir stabs his aura-coated hand straight into the giant purple eye hidden in its throat. But as he pushes his energy, he grits his teeth, realizing his aura blade is too short. He quickly assesses the issue. The tower restricts his power, leaving his aura too weak. Because of this, his blade cannot reach the core deep inside the giant eye. Not wanting to lose the chance, Vikir adapts. Using his ring storage again, he pulls out two swords, the demonic Bamung and the winter sword owl. Even though dual-wielding isn't his specialty, he has no choice. Vikir crosses the twin blades and coats them in his strong red aura. With deadly focus, he unleashes the fourth Baskerville sword style, the tearing tooth. A massive red explosion erupts inside the beast's mouth. The force of the dual sword strike completely shatters the monster's purple core into pieces. Dark blood blasts out of the monster's mouth, raining over the courtyard. Hiding behind the debris, the drenched students and the guides stare in total shock at the impossible sight. As the blood rain stops, Vikir stands victorious on the dead beast. The system announces that level 1 warrior Vikir is the first to hunt the S-rank monster. While the fairy guide cries in disbelief, the system gives out rare rewards for this impossible achievement. After his devastating strike, the pink and purple aura from Vikir's blade leaves the spectating students in absolute shock. The arrogant student with the ponytail and his peers stare wide-eyed, stunned by his power. Relieved to be alive, the blonde and short-haired girls cry tears of joy. Nearby, Grenuel clutches his chest, panting and completely bewildered by the impossible feat his classmate achieved. As the beast's blood rains down, Vikir stands with his sword still crackling. The system announces that the level 1 warrior, Vikir, is the first to hunt the S-rank Bloodwater Plantain Lily, promising him a special reward for achieving the impossible. The surviving students murmur in shock. From the ruined walls, they wonder how a level 1 participant defeated an S-rank threat despite the tower's 100-fold stat suppression. Realizing his power in the outside world must be unimaginable. Pointing a trembling finger at Vikir's glowing weapon, one student notices a terrifying detail. The faint glow is unmistakably a liquid aura, the mark of a high-tier warrior. He sweats and deduces that Vikir must be at least a graduator. But another student corrects him. This student claims Vikir's power proves he is even stronger than a sword master, leaving the crowd in disbelief. The students whisper that a sword master should not be a regular academy student. On the sidelines, Arthur Gordon Pym's confident look crumbles into a dark expression as the terrified crowd wonders about Vikir's identity. Stressed and silenced by his massive miscalculation, Arthur can only watch the unfolding reality. At the top of a rock, the four-eyed flower fairy guide trembles in frustration, cursing its luck. The creature grips its face in despair, wondering how its perfect plans went so wrong. The third-floor trial was designed to be a cruel test to break the students' spirits, forcing them to sacrifice one another. The fairy had relied on human selfishness, expecting them to betray each other to survive. It was supposed to expose humanity's darkest nature. But instead, the fairy stares down at Vikir, who has completely shattered its twisted game. As Vikir approaches the base of the rock, the bewildered guide looks down at him, terrified and confused about his true identity. Ignoring the furious fairy, Vikir inspects his loot. He holds up a small bag, and the system confirms it contains the seeds of the Bloodwater Plantain Lily, which is exactly what he needed. He realizes the D-rank items he obtained earlier are useful here. The system notes that his small hand hoe is perfect for digging up seeds, and the oil paper pouch provides excellent moisture-proof storage. Vikir's thoughts are interrupted when a group of students approaches him, saying they have something to tell him. Anticipating a fight, Granule steps between them and warns the classmates not to mob Vikir, demanding to know what they want. Vikir remains calm while Decorabia cynically predicts that the students will project their anger onto him, ungratefully demanding to know why he did not save them sooner. Instead, Vikir is caught off guard when the students earnestly thank him for saving their lives. They admit that without him, they would have been devoured by the beast or killed each other. In awe, they ask if he is indeed a sword master and wish to become as strong as him. Vikir stares at his classmates' earnest faces while Decorabia remarks with surprise that humans actually possess a conscience after all. The moment is interrupted when the Flower Fairy Guide announces 67 survivors, sarcastically commenting on how they survived without putting in any effort. Vikir looks up at the rock, addressing the four-eyed Flower Fairy Guide by her name, Venus. He bluntly tells her she crossed the line, recalling how she interfered during his fight by yelling at the beast to close its mouth and hide its weak point to ensure his death. Nervous, Venus stammers and asks what a human can do. Claiming she only followed the rules, gaining false courage, she warns Vikir that hurting her will prevent him from progressing to the next floor. Unfazed, Vikir glares at Venus with intense bloodlust and orders her to hand over his reward immediately if she wants to avoid a horrific experience, making the fairy squeak in terror. Cowed, Venus nervously smiles and announces a generous reward. With a wave of her hand, 3 massive sacks appear filled with hundreds of stat-boosting candies. The students stare in shock at the mountain of loot. Amazed by the massive reward, they notice glowing orbs in the pile, which the system identifies as rare gold candies. A single gold candy instantly increases the user's level by 1 or exchanges for 300 regular candies. While others watch with jealousy, Vikir stands before his hall and calculates his 10 gold candies. He plans to exchange them for stat candies, noting this is a very generous reward for a level 1 participant. However, his focus shifts to his hand, barely able to believe his luck in obtaining a specific item so early in the game. Granule is confused to see Vikir smiling, noting that it is not because of the valuable gold candies. He wonders aloud what could make Vikir so pleased. Vikir holds up a strange pink bug. The system identifies it as an S-rank artifact called the Conversion Bug, which converts 100 candies of the same color into a random different color. Vikir looks at the pink bug in surprise. He knows from his past life that this S-rank item is the rarest and most valuable artifact mentioned by the tower's survivors. He recalls that in his past life, Camus Morgue obtained this conversion bug after defeating a massive skeletal beast on the lowest floor of the Tree of Falling. Camus fed all her candies to the parasite in a desperate bid to increase her mana resistance, the final hidden stat she needed. Her gamble paid off, allowing her to survive a violent internal mana rampage and withstand what should have been a paralyzing backlash. In the present, Vikir looks at the artifact, amazed to acquire such a powerful item as early as the 3rd floor. Since his strategy requires hoarding candies, he cannot host the bug himself. Instead, he entrusts the parasite to the little blue spider on his collar, calling her baby madam. As the spider happily accepts the bug, Vikir explains that when she eats a candy, the magical effects will be shared, allowing her to grow stronger alongside it. Vikir activates his divine immortal ring to open a dark portal and store his candies. Granule watches in disbelief, wondering if all sword masters possess dimensional magic. Suddenly, Arthur steps forward and calls out to Vikir, smilingly, noting that he always knew Vikir was hiding a secret. He approaches Vikir and asks about the unique swordsmanship he displayed during the boss fight. With a sinister grin, Arthur identifies Vikir's combat style as the infamous Baskerville technique. The surrounding students whisper in shock, noting that the Baskerville technique is the guarded style of the Iron Blood sword family, and wondering how an outsider could learn it. Refusing to believe the implication, Granule grabs Arthur's shoulder and yells that his claim makes no sense and must be a mistake. Granule shoves Arthur back, desperately arguing his point. Ignoring the protest, Arthur calmly recounts a memory from his childhood. He explains that, as a young boy lost in a dark forest, he witnessed a group of people hunting demonic beasts. He describes the hunters using a distinct red sword energy that formed beast-like fangs to strike down prey, a technique unique to the Baskerville family. Smiling arrogantly, Arthur adds that there was another obvious clue he had overlooked because the name was so common. He reminds the students of news that swept the Empire years ago from the Red Fong Mountains, announcing the return of a famous Baskerville hero presumed dead. As Granua listens in confusion, Arthur smoothly connects the pieces, pointing out the coincidence of a student named Vikir possessing the exclusive Baskerville swordsmanship. With absolute certainty, Arthur confronts him directly, declaring that his true identity is the legendary hero Vikir van Baskerville,